In this lesson, we're going to talk about subject-verb agreement. And the first thing I want to talk about is when we have verbs in the present tense, and I'm going to take a regular one like go, there's one thing that changes that sometimes students forget. If you're taking Spanish or French or German, you may notice that your teachers in those languages are going to write, yo, tu, usted. If it's in Spanish, I can't remember all of the other ones for French and for German, but we have first, second, and third person in English as well. Sometimes we don't talk about it as much because our verbs don't change as much as, say, a Spanish verb does. But if I say to you, I go, and that's the first person, so that would be like yo in Spanish. And I say, in second person, you go. And in the third person, it's he, she, or it goes. And you'll notice that there's always an S. Notice with go, we had to add an ES for the spelling there. But notice that there's always an S in the third person singular. I'm going to highlight that for you so that you notice it. And that's something that you want to make sure in your subject verb agreement that you remember that S. So then we have we go, you go, oops, and they go. I don't know why the numbers are doing that on the chart. So anyway, so we have first, second, and third singular and plural. And notice if it's he goes, she goes, it goes, makes, takes, they all have an S in the present tense. In the past, I would say I went, you went, he went, so it doesn't change. So only in the present tense is that S going to be hard. So we need to think about with subjects and verbs, and you're going to read some pages. They're listed with the quiz that you're going to take. But you'll notice that it's going to tell you that verbs need to agree with their subjects in subject, in agreement in number and person. That just means singular and plural, and the person needs to. So person would be, is it I, is it you, is it he? And that does change. And the first thing I will tell you, here's a little simple sentence like the car goes. So here is your verb. And then the subject is car, and I will just underline subjects. I will try to do that. So the car goes. And so the thing I want you to do, and you need to write down in your notes, is that when you find the verb in the sentence. Now, this is a very short sentence, so it's not hard to find the subject of the verb. The subject of the verb is going to be a noun or a pronoun. So the subject, and you should take some notes. You should write down these charts and things. You can watch this video again, but you can write down these things on a chart. Subject is going to be a noun or a pronoun. Remember, pronouns just take the place of nouns, and we're going to be talking a lot about those in another lesson. But down here with goes, when we find this verb, what I want to do is in front of that verb, I'm going to ask these two questions, and they're very important. I'm going to ask who or what, because it depends on if it's a person or a thing. And whatever noun in the sentence answers the question, that's your subject of the verb. And the reason we want to know this is to make sure that they do agree. So notice here, I have, if you look for the action words, we see runs and we see jumps. Sometimes I see students where they will have two verbs and they might get the S on the one that's closest to the subject and then they forget it here. And that would be a subject-verb agreement problem. So we need runs and jumps. So we see both of these verbs. And then I'm going to ask who or what runs and jumps. And it is, in this sentence, it is the girl. Sometimes, and you'll see when you do your reading, we have collective nouns. I have sings, and I won't do all the highlighting for all of them because I'll be here all day highlighting. But the choir sings. Notice sings is my verb. And when I ask who or what sings, it's the choir. Now, the choir is a group of people, but since I'm talking about them as a group, I can say sings. If I would talk about every member of the choir as an individual, then I would say, a verb. If I have a verb, it would be the one without the s. But this, and notice that the one with the s is singular. This is the singular third person, he, she, or it, and then we have a collective noun here. Drunk drivers cause accidents. We see accidents is a noun. We see drivers as a noun. Cause is my verb here. When I ask who or what causes, I can see that drivers cause. So this is just like they. So you'll notice that that is a subject-verb agreement. Down here, I want you to figure out what is the correct verb? Which one would agree? And so we have one of the players on the football team is, or one of the players on the football team are in this class. So I see lots of nouns. I see players, I see football team, and then I have one. What I want to tell you about this, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this with subject-verb agreement, is of the players is a prepositional phrase. It begins with a preposition and ends with a noun. And what I will tell you about that is that you cannot, and I'm going to, I'll highlight that in a different color. I'll make it dark. So anyway, oh, that didn't work. That was letter. Sorry. Let me get the right one here. So one of the players, and then on the football team, this is another prepositional phrase. It begins with a preposition and ends with a noun. And we can look up prepositions. And the thing that I want you to remember about prepositional phrases is that they are not part of the subject and the verb. So the subject is going to be one, and one is singular. So I'm going to say, one of the players on the football team is. So if I can have a whole lot of junk between my subject and my verb that can confuse me. Many in my family is in North Carolina or are in North Carolina. The verb here, who is, what are, and it's many, and many is plural. So you'll notice that I need to say are instead of is, because it is plural. You and I is plural, and so we are best friends, and you can see who are best friends, you and I, both of those things. And this is a compound subject joined with and. Now notice it's different when we use or, because it's either you or I, and it's either you or I is, because oh, and I have the wrong one. I cannot do that. Oh, I have a mistake. Don't you notice that I need to have am here? That is different. Either you or I am going. And notice I would never say you am, but since I is closer to the verb, I'm going to say I am. So whenever you have this choice, oh, and that sometimes it's like either Mary or her sisters, and then if I had the choice between is and are, I'm going to choose whatever is closest to the verb. If I had said her sisters or Mary, then I would say is, but because it's either Mary or her sisters, I'm going to say are. So coming back up to the one that I just did, either you or I am, because notice that the I is closer, and I need to say I am. I can't say I is, right, or I be. I have to say I am. Whatever is closer. So let me just write this sentence the other way. If I wrote it the other way, I would say either her sisters or Mary is, and I would finish the sentence, maybe is here, something like that, to make sure it makes sense. I want to make sure that we have a complete thought. Let's look at this next one. There's a problem with it. Me and my friends like to listen to music. One of the things I want to tell you whenever you are listing using pronouns, and we are going to have a whole week where our lesson is going to be on pronouns, but notice me and my friends like to listen. It might sound okay to you, but would you ever say me like to listen to music? It sounds like that fake caveman talk. Notice that we always want to try that, because I need to say I like to listen to music, and we also kind of want to be polite. when we are writing. And so always put the pronoun last if you were listing something that's not a pronoun and if it's yourself. So my friends and I like to listen to music. So notice like is what we are doing. So that is my action verb. And who or what like to listen? It's my friends and I. And that is plural. And that is my whole subject. Neither Sean nor Stephen is or are awake. This is another one of those either or, neither nor. Notice that it's just one of these gentlemen is awake. So we're going to say is, and it's neither Sean nor Stephen. So one or the other of these nouns is the subject. So I want you to think about subject verb agreement. You have quizzes to take in module 5 on subject verb agreement. So make sure you read the pages in the handbook starting on page 334. This is listed in module 5 as well.